Alright guys, just before we get started with today's episode, a reminder that we are going to be performing live in London on Saturday the 9th of September. We'll be doing the London Podcast Festival. You can catch myself, Stuart, Stevie and probably a secret guest to be decided. If you'd like to come and see us down there, tickets are selling well. There's still a few left. If you're in London and you want to come and see us, get a wee taste of home, Scotland.
Yeah, or not home if you're not from Scotland.
Or not home if you're not from Scotland.
Home London, I suppose.
Yeah, if you're just in London and you're like, listening to this podcast and I want to hear the guys or see them live, then that's where you can do that.
All the live shows have been fun so far, haven't they?
Been fun, and we've just put up the most recent live show recorded on the Patreon. We had the special guest Paul Black.
And friend of the show, CMB.
He's
non-special guest.
He's basically like almost a host to the point where we shouldn't even really mention him, and we don't want to take up the space. We want to get the headline guest, Paul Black, and this other wee guy who's always on. But if you want to see that, you can sign up to the Patreon for us. It's £3 a month, where you get access to our other live shows, an extra episode every 2 weeks at least for the time being, and also just loads more bonus content will be coming, including access first dibs on live show tickets.
Yes, for future live shows.
More of which there may be information on very soon. But yeah, sign up to the Patreon, guys. Hopefully see you in London for the live show, and enjoy today's episode.
Enjoy.
Welcome to the Some Laugh Podcast.
It could be like, oh, that was some laugh, or there was just some laughs.
Some laughs.
Well, no promising all laugh.
No, there's going to be some.
It's some laugh.
Reminds you of your talk show, Jack. It's a similar setup.
It's very similar. The desk, a little seat for the game. Yeah, it's funny because I've been reliving that with doing the David Bowie thing because I play footage off it. It's really weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, you'll see.
Yeah, as I told you this just before we started recording, but it's nice and handy that I'm seeing your show tomorrow night.
Yes.
So I can just preempt what I think the show's going to be about.
Exactly. Yeah.
You singing some Bowie numbers?
Yeah, I open by singing Bowie, a very tiny excerpt. But for comedic effects, you'll understand.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not,
Thanks for joining us, Jack. It's nice to see you, as always.
Nice to see you, man.
How long have you been coming to the Fringe?
I've been coming. Well, my very first Fringe was 1980. Can you believe? So how many years before you were born?
13 years before I was born.
13 years, there you go. But I was 18, so it's not like I'm hugely old.
Your whole life ahead of you, Jack.
I started young. So I did a lot in the 80s, and then I did one show in the 90s, then nothing until 2018.
Really? Wow.
So I took 25 years off. And I really regret that now.
Really?
Because I've loved it these last 3 years. But yeah, maybe I wouldn't have loved it so much had I not taken 25 years off.
Yeah. I mean, what were you... Why did you not come back?
I don't know. I wasn't really performing, actually.
Right.
I'd kind of given up performing. And then I came back to performing through a comedy show called Scot Squad. I don't know if you're aware of that.
That sounds shite.
Yeah, it's terrible. Thank God they've cancelled. They finally pulled it. Thank God for that. Long overdue. Nix it. Yeah, I was just doing other stuff. I was just writing and producing then. And I kind of fell back in love with performing. So, yeah.
That must have been an interesting dichotomy between what the Fringe was like when you were doing it back in the day versus and taking such a long gap. You must have seen a stark contrast between how it is. What was the main differences?
Yeah, the audiences were much older. For me. You know, it's a terrible thing to say, but in the 80s, of course, you'd be on stage and you'd be looking out and you'd be going, oh, I wonder if that person will be in the bar afterwards. That'd be quite
We wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, no, you guys wouldn't know anything about you young boys. And I remember phoning my wife on the first night going, God, the audience are quite old now. And she's going, no, they're just your age. They've grown up with me. But just the sheer mayhem, the sheer size of it. I mean, in essence, it feels the same. Because when I started in 80, there was still there's little clumps like the assembly or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we helped set up the Pleasance in 84, 85.
Oh, wow.
But when we set that up with Chris Richardson, there were only two venues at the Pleasance. There was Pleasance 1 and then Pleasance 2. Wow. And then the bar, and that was it.
Wow.
So there were less shows, so you guaranteed to sell out. That was a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? So the audiences were just there for the taking.
Yeah. Yeah, the scale of it. That's what everyone says, right? It's just like, it's just crazy.
And I don't quite know how. And the problems of it costing so much and how if there's some way that there can be they could set a fix on it, so that people can actually afford to come again.
Yeah.
Because I would my sister's here, so I stay with her, so it's free. So that's perfect. Do you travel back to home?
We've got a place here for the month.
You got a place here.
Yeah.
It's better.
We know a lot of people that do that though.
But. Yeah.
But I've always been lucky, particularly throughout the years, and it's usually being Scottish. Like you always know somebody in Edinburgh. So like for years, I would manage to get a cheap place or stay in a sofa or something like that. And that's when we were starting out. How the only way we could stay and do it.
And you kind of when in the 20s, you would just stay up all night as well. That would be the other thing, mate. And there was the old Gilded Balloon, which was in the Cowgate. Would close about 4, and then the Penny Black at the east end of Princess Street would open, I think, at 5:30 or 5 for the postal workers. So everyone would wander down and try and kill that hour till you get another drink at 5. And I remember one night Murray Hunter and Nick Hancock tried to take a room in the Caledonian Hotel for 1 hour, just so they could have access to the mini bar. Maybe that was it. Yeah, they claimed it was for the mini bar, but actually maybe they just say, "Oh." But that kind of that's proper drinking. You're willing to take a room. Strangely, they wouldn't let them in. But there you go.
That's
so they didn't
bizarre.
get.
I wonder why. You must have so many mad stories from back in the day of who's kicking around, who are your contemporaries
of those kinds of it was a real mix to begin with. It was much more 88-85 was much more sketch show, so and much more kind of Footlights and Oxford Review and all that, but the Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie, Emma Thompson generation, Angus Deaton, Phil Pope, all that lot. So people who went on to be massive. And then it kind of shifted by the mid-80s, stand-up began to come in. And then it would be Eddie Izzard and Sean Hughes and all that lot. So it was, but just every year there would be something new. And this thing that was slightly better back then was that because there was no internet, you could get really surprised. It's harder to be surprised now because you'll have heard, there's this great group in Australia or whatever, and you'll have seen them on YouTube before or whatever, before they come. Whereas back then, a group like the Doug Anthony All-Stars would just turn up and with jet-lagged, crash through a set in front of 3 people and within 2 weeks be selling out 500, and the word just got out, and that was always really exciting.
Seems a lot more romantic, doesn't it?
It was actually in a way, because it wasn't as corporate, it wasn't as organised, it was just a little more seat of your pants stuff, and it felt like you were meeting people from all over the world. It was really great. Still great now though.
And you mentioned sketch stuff. Did you do Absolutely? Did that start at the Fringe?
The core of that started. We were a group called the Bodgers, and that's the 4 Scottish guys. Well, it started with 8 of us. It was just basically a bunch of schoolmates, and they were all a bit older than me, about 5 years older than me, and they asked me to join them. And so in 1980 we did that, and then 4 of them dropped out, and the 4 of us that were in Absolutely, me, Gordy, Murray and Pete, carried on doing this group as the Bodgers. And then when we moved to London, we hooked up with John Sparks and Morwenna to form Absolutely. So the kernel of it started here,
And didn't keep the Bodgers name, but...
No, we didn't keep the Bodgers name. I still don't know what it means. I think it's a travelling... I think it's... To bodge was an old thing in the medieval times when you went around and you would make things from wood and you'd go from village to village and craft something from nothing.
Right.
So I think maybe
spiritually that's what you were doing.
Spiritually, maybe that's what we were after. But then someone also just said to bodge something is to fuck it up. So it might have been that as well. But I don't know. I didn't name the group.
So you went and you joined up with them. It became Absolutely. And did you do that as a Fringe show after that, or is that when you started getting on maybe radio or telly?
We just did. Yeah, we went from doing the Bodgers to doing Absolutely as a telly show, and then we never actually did Absolutely live anywhere. In fact, we just never got round to it. We should have, but it was just always getting the 6 of us together free at the same time was hard. It's easy when there's just one of you. But, so we never live, but too late now.
You just think, fuck it, I'm on the telly now.
We're
done with live.
Basically.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Back in the days when telly paid you quite well. Now you got to do live to get the money. But back then you could get quite a bit. So basically, fuck it, we're big. We're huge. We're too big to do live shit, Go back to some fucking cave at the Fringe, I have a driver now taking me to my gigs. Yeah.
That must have been some experience, though, getting on the telly and all that way. It must have been
fucking unbelievable. Particularly because we were schoolmates,
Yeah, it's
so
absurd.
it was absurd. You don't, with a bunch of school friends, get a television show, But then I've always said it's much more like the feeling was like a band, It was like getting a record deal and getting an album out. That's what it felt like. That a bunch of mates who would just just arsing around, and then suddenly going, "Hang on, you've got your own television show." And it was beyond. Nothing ever since has been as exciting. The moment where they went, okay, you've got your own show, and we all just went to the pub and thought, fucking hell, we've pulled this off. We've managed to, do you know what I mean?
It's like a bank job or something.
Yeah, exactly, like a bank job. And someone's going to stop us. Someone's going to walk in and go, this isn't real. So yeah, it was so exciting, so great. Yeah. But you've had that experience, obviously, Stuart, now that you're a big television star.
Yeah, massive, yeah, exactly the same. Telly's just as, pays just as well comparatively now as it did then, I'm sure.
I know, it's such a struggle, never mind.
When did the chat show come around? That was later, right?
Yeah, chat show was 97. So we finished Absolutely in 93 or 94 maybe. Oh no, yeah, it went off to just spin off from Absolutely called Mr. Don and Mr. George for a year. But then that got cancelled very quickly by Michael Grade, who apparently famously said in a meeting, I don't know what the fuck this is about, does anybody? And then it was removed.
It's not necessarily a negative.
It's not necessarily a negative. I know exactly. I thought, well, that's you've got it.
3 stars.
That's exactly that's the purpose.
That's what
of
we were
this
just
whole
bemoaning has been lost about the Fringe. I don't know what the fuck is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we want. And then I came back to Edinburgh to present Edinburgh Nights with Emma Freud. So that was the Roundup, the BBC Two arts programme Roundup.
Oh yeah.
And the last time I pulled a few all-nighters. I'd love to see the footage when we did 2 all-nighters and just kept filming during the day, just getting more and more wrecked. So I don't know how we got away with it. And so somebody saw that, so it must have been all right, and then said, oh, do you want to do a chat show? So that, 97 that started, yeah. That
must have been crazy as well.
That was a bit weird because that was kind of the epicenter of, the first night was Spice Girls were on it, and it was when the Spice Girls were, had just become the biggest thing in Britain. So it was mayhem, actually. Not for me, obviously, for the Spice Girls, with all these screaming fans. And it was great for a while, but then it got a little boring quite quickly. Five nights
just clocking in
week.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, a bit like a job, What
was it? What channel was it on?
Channel 5.
Channel 5.
So Channel 5 had just, it was just birthed.
Aye.
We were one of the shows that started it. And, but I don't know, you're too young to remember, but there was the broadcast, the aerial, the antenna, whatever the fuck it's called. That broadcast was 2 weeks. So halfway over the country, it was just like it was snowing all the time. Like that. So every night you did a joke by throwing up the confetti and going, welcome to Channel 5. But it was a funny channel because it's the old thing. It's the old Nazi thing. If you're going to tell a lie, tell a big one. So they would do this whole, we're stripped and stranded at, we've got the chat at 9 o'clock, we've got a film. And they did this massive poster campaign, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And, they had the rights to one Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And then the rest of the year was just utter dross. Terrible movie. And then us at 11 at night or something like that. But yeah, it was an attempt to do one of those Letterman type things. But we didn't have the resources, It was made for 2 and 6.
Because I guess that's the thing. It's never really took off here doing that the 5 nights a week thing in the
doesn't
UK.
make sense to me why it wouldn't work, but there must be a good reason why. I don't know.
I know. I think certainly back then you just didn't want the turnover of guests because then obviously in LA and New York there's just people around there all the time. I think in London you could probably do it now in London.
Aye.
But I don't know why people do it. But because the one once a week, perfect.
Yeah,
Graham Norton's show is perfect.
Yeah.
Because you just get the biggest guests. He's brilliant at it. You can't go wrong. A great job for one day a week. Because I got to meet lots of my heroes like David Bowie, and the Pythons and, whoever. It was just amazing to meet all these people and hang out afterwards. And it was great fun. But.
And as we mentioned, obviously, so your show is about David Bowie this year.
Yeah.
And I guess obviously you did interview him on the show.
Yeah.
And just is it about growing up as a Bowie fan?
Yeah, it's about growing up as a Bowie fan and me pursuing a woman at school, a girl at school that I was in love with. I fell in love with this woman and this girl and Bowie on the same day. It's the conceit. It's kind of true, but no, it's one of those shows. It's like I never say what is true. Yeah, exactly. This is all. People always want to know, and you just don't want to say what's true. You don't want to kind of pull the rug away. But and it's about me, my relationship with her through Bowie and through Bowie songs, and me trying to get her Bowie stuff and take her to Bowie concert, all of that.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of little coming of age story there, but then it leads up to me meeting Bowie, and it all ties back in with connecting with her again. And then I try and take on the whole problematic hero thing, can we bring up the fact that Bowie was sleeping with teenage groupies, and you know, it's just like that whole.
Yeah, he seems to kind of get away with it more than most.
Yeah,
he's so beloved.
Because he's so beloved, and again, it's trying to talk about that. It's easy to cancel someone who's shit. Gary Glitter, fuck him, who cares? You know, but Bowie's good. You know,
Yeah.
Rolling Stones, Michael Jackson. That's the big one. You know, my kids are going, but I love him. So we kind of dip our toes into the serious bit of that. So by the end, it sort of becomes a meta self-referential thing about you've got to have a serious bit in any show. At 50 minutes in, any Fringe show, bang, you got to turn left, and it turns out you're, you know, mentally ill or a recovering alcoholic.
Why do you think that is? Is it just to keep people's attention, or do we just feel a pressure?
I don't know. It's just become the orthodox, really, hasn't it? But it's just the style now. And it's a style that I love, and I did it with Nothing But, which you saw, you know. Which started as a comedy, then became a thing about
I love
father.
that show, man.
Yeah,
It's so good.
No, it was good fun to do, and it's but it became about, you know, absent fathers and reconnecting with their daughter, and it's just more. It is more satisfying, I think.
Yeah.
Although Charlie Higson yesterday was talking about it, going, you know, he much preferred just joke after joke after joke. You know,
Yeah,
he was
plenty
going
of
be
that as
Bill
well.
Bailey, but I think they both are legitimate. And does yours is a serious show?
Not necessarily. No,
Little
I
bit,
wouldn't
yeah,
say so.
but
I try and add in a little bit of
Yeah.
real stuff.
You
And
know, wrap
last
it
year's
wrap
was
it up
as
with
well.
a few callbacks at the end.
Yeah, that's right. I do a lot of that as well. I go serious, and then here's all cool. And I did one night where I'd forgotten to set up all the callbacks,
Yeah, that's the worst
and it
feeling,
was
isn't it?
suddenly
Yeah.
there going, "Oh fuck, I haven't mentioned any of this." The audience is just sitting there. Why is he going on
The
about?
worst is when you do a callback and you didn't do the first one.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
And they were all
yeah.
beavers.
Yeah, I did one. Yeah,
then
this
everyone's just looking
man
at it,
drew
I
the
forgot to
first
say that.
uncircumcised graffiti penis. Oh, I haven't done the whole graffiti penis thing. It's just it's too late. I can't go back and
like
explain what the
insane.
fuck I'm talking about. But it's only happened once.
But it's funny because like was that not a thing like back in like when you're talking about going to the 80s? Because I'd heard when Sean Hughes died that, but a lot of people credited him as sort of being the person who sort of was the first
Invented the
person to do that
Edinburgh
kind of
show.
narrative Edinburgh show
Yeah,
type
yeah,
of thing.
kind of narrative one, but maybe not necessarily going
Sad,
serious, going to the sad bit. But it's just grown and stretched. Fleabag's a big shadow of that, I think. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, but I guess it was around before then. But yeah, Sean was one of the first storytellers, I guess,
Yeah.
before. But now it's almost like you almost want it. Like Ed Byrne, everyone's saying his show this year is incredible.
Yeah.
And again, just sounds like it's just, you know,
Aye.
from the heart. And
Because it's a bit the thing that I'm conflicted about with it. Because I love those shows, and like even last year I went to like when I seen Stuart's and like a few of our mates who were doing a type of show like that. I wasn't doing that at all. I was just doing jokes last year, and there's part of you that goes, "Oh, I'd love to write a show like that." But the only problem is for us is like, you know, circuit comics basically. Like the rest of your year. I still think it's like a square peg in a round hole because 11 months of the year, your job is to go out and be as fun as you can be in comedy clubs on weekends to steaming fucking people, and that's your thing. And that's
clinging
how you-
on for dear life sometimes.
yeah, you're still and you're still trying to get
yeah.
into clubs and all the rest of it. So you just need to have the strongest stuff, and then suddenly you need to come here and be fucking Harold Pinter and
Yeah. Well, that's a good discipline, and also that's what I love about the old festival. It was always just you would just do a new show, no matter what.
Aye.
It would all be new material, nothing from the past year, no works in progress, nothing. Bang, here it is. And I think that's what I love about the Fringe. I want people to do something they're not doing for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
For me, that's the purpose of the Fringe. And then,
Yeah, I think it's
and
about-
you can fail. It's fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, taking some risks.
Yeah, exactly.
What people used to always say is about, you know, the Fringe back in the day was that people would arrive with not necessarily a whole show, and then by the end you'd have worked it up and you'd leave with a show.
Yeah,
Was
that's
that your
kind of
experience?
and that's kind of what I did this year. I mean, I did have the whole show, but the three I used the three previews to get the last bit of direction as you do from the audience.
yeah.
And it was loose, you know. So I cut 10 minutes out of it, and I found the show now. And about the first Thursday, it landed perfectly. And that was it.
It's a satisfying feeling.
Satisfying feeling, isn't it? But it's also like, oh, I'll never be as good as that again. You know?
Yeah, well,
So
yeah.
kind of
I
like
keep
that
talking about
probably
how
the
mine's
best night.
peaked now. Like,
Yeah, I know.
as
Like
soon as you
Sat-
get it sorted, and then it's
yeah, and then it's there, and it's great. You coast along on it. But like Saturday night was like a music hall from the 19th century. It was mental. It was so wild. Everyone was so drunk, and it was like kind of just like fuck. It was and then Sunday last night was quite. And actually, I almost preferred the Sunday night because I could act a bit. You know, when it gets
Yeah,
rowdy,
you
you
chill out
push
a
it
bit.
a little bit, and you maybe get a little bit too big and all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting because Pete Bakey is in absolutely kind of directs me, as does Kate, my wife. And then two younger, Olivia McLeod helped me this year, who's doing Junk Monkey Down the Road, and Maddie, this other young woman that helped. Kate's me on, don't say that. old man, don't say that, but nice to have young people on the team. But they were basically every single bit that I cut, having done the 3 previews, they'd been telling me to cut for the 3 weeks I'd been rehearsing it.
Yeah.
And they were all right. And I kind of knew they were, but I just wanted to throw it to an audience. I just wanted to make sure. So, and you think, well, it's preview audiences. They're only paying half price. You know, they can see the bits that don't quite work. So, you know.
Yeah, there is something with that. I feel like a lot when you're writing stand up and you're with these bits and you're like, I've just always had this idea or this thing and I just want to try it. And you're like,
there's a way.
There's a way, but then sometimes you're wrong as well. You're like, actually, but as soon as you try it now, then you go, do you know what? It's just not.
It's not. It's sometimes you just go, I haven't got it.
Yeah.
Or it's the other great thing I'm sure you're finding as well when you realize, oh, right, the laugh is not in the line, the laugh is in the pause, the laugh is in where I'm seen to be thinking about what I've just said rather than what I've just, all that.
Yeah.
And I still find that really interesting that you can never quite work it out in advance.
No.
But
it's too easy to cling to stuff that you like that doesn't work as well, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. But sometimes I will do that. I will go, I'm sorry, I'm right.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those as well.
Yeah,
I refuse to cut this.
I refuse to cut it. No, it's just, it is funny. Just, you know.
Yeah.
But people staring at me. But it's fine. As long as it's only a couple of times, you've got to amuse yourself as well and stick with stuff you believe in.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be fun for you.
So what am I going to look at? Will I spot them tonight? Will it be obvious, the bits that
I'll shout them out.
Just wait to at the back. Here comes the bit that nobody's going to like.
Yeah, this is a shit bit.
Yeah, but I'll also be the person, I'll be knowingly laughing. I love being the only person.
Comedians always like those bits.
Of course. Great.
Yeah.
But that's a terrible thing though, until when you say a line, it doesn't get laughing. All you hear is the comics laughing.
Yeah. I was in a gig the other night with this woman, Olivia, who's in my show, and Frankie Boyle was there. And again, it was brilliant because he only laughed at the bits that nobody else laughed at.
He's got such a distinctive laugh.
Yeah, exactly. So that was great. It was great.
Not to brag about my research, Jack, but it's funny doing research on you because I've known you for years, obviously. But I was on your Wikipedia earlier, which is where I do all my research.
Yes.
You said you hosted the BAFTAs?
Yes, I did.
And the description of your Wikipedia made me laugh out loud of what you did.
Yes. Does it say giving away the ending to...
It was the year that...
The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
I kind of lost the crowd at that point. That was a tough... Talk about dying in your arse. We've all died in our arse. But to die in your arse in front of Hollywood. In the front row is Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman and George Clooney. And it was just the most famous people in the world. And I just thought it would be funny because it was in the Odeon Cinema in Leicester Square. So I thought it would be funny to come on and go, I'm terribly sorry, but it's not the regular cinema tonight. And if you'd booked to see The Sixth Sense, we apologise, but it's an award ceremony tonight. But if you did, just to let you know that he was a ghost all along. But it made
that's so funny.
I know. I thought it'd be a big laugh. But it made the front. It was on the front cover of it was a headline in the Hollywood Reporter. The next,
wow.
Scottish comic ruins. Ruins. Fuck! It was really funny. But that was a really great night and. Spacey and all Harvey Weinstein, all these disgraced fuckers. I've got the last laugh. They're in prison. Yeah, you may not have been laughing at me. And the other guy, Dustin Hoffman, came on to present an award, and I could see that he'd spotted. We were in a 2-shot together, and I'm about a 1.5 feet. He's so tiny, and he kept trying to walk out of the 2-shot. So I just kept shuffling along to stick with him to go. Yeah, that's your punishment for not laughing at my Sixth Sense joke.
Is that what you? That's what you opened with?
Yeah, that was the opening joke. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. Apologize, but just so you know, Bruce Willis is a ghost all along. Silence in front of Hollywood.
You can watch that on Channel 5 tomorrow night if you're.
Yeah. So nobody researched that. There's certain things you try and hope that have gone forever, but nothing. It's all there. We can't hide any longer from our catastrophes. I mean, there's no footage of us in the early 80s, which is great actually, because that would have been quite embarrassing. But
Actually, because it's funny stuff that I guess like when you do telly shows that you probably just think this is just now in the ether, no one will ever see this.
Completely.
But obviously, just now that you can get access to everything, I seen you I was watching the old Richard Herring and Stuart Lee thing this morning with Richard Not Judy, which you were on as a guest at one point.
Yes.
And it seemed like a fun time because they would always get like Jenny Eclair and all these people in, and like felt like that was like a wee scene, and they were getting in their mates.
Completely. And that was the Lee and Herring show, their show, wasn't it?
Aye.
That was a Sunday. again, I make a slightly inappropriate joke about Morwenna Banks, I think, in that, which probably would be better not to see the light. Because I was going out with her at the time. I can't remember. I won't revisit the inappropriate or dressed as a schoolgirl, whatever the fuck it was. But
too much Bowie influence, was it?
I know, too much Bowie, I know. But exactly that. I met Alan Cumming again, recently bumped into him, and we were talking about that we did a like a New Year's show, one of these tartan kind of things, everybody dancing around, and in the 80s, and we were standing there beforehand going, what the fuck have we done, and they've put us in these tartan trousers and we're about to do some fucking song, some terrible New Year's Scottish song. And I remember Alan saying, don't worry, everybody's drunk, it'll never see the light of day, and literally going, they'd have to invent a massive database of everything in the world for this to ever see that.
Seems
now,
unlikely.
Google Alan Cumming and Jack Docherty, up it comes. First Alan turns out to be one of the most famous people from Scotland. You can't, here we are, the little tartan trousers on. Oh, fuck. But there you go.
Did you move to London pretty young then?
Yeah.
Aye.
I moved to London when I was 20 because I was writing for, me and Murray Hunter, my writing partner, were writing for various telly and radio shows. And here we go, kids. This is how old I am. That's when I started writing, there wasn't even fax machines. So we would literally type our scripts up and post them. Put them in an envelope and post them to London. And then the producer would open the envelope, read the scripts, phone us up, and go, we need a rewrite, and we'd do the rewrite, and then we'd post the scripts back, So it was you kind of had to be where you were working.
Aye.
So you could go in, and then, so we got offered, they had a bursary then to go and write for BBC Radio, and they paid you, so it sounded like $3,000, it was pretty good in the 80s, got you down there, got your rent for a year, and then we just kind of stumbled into writing Spitting Image and all of that, but yeah, it's kind of crazy. But now I would just, I don't know, you could stay here and just do it,
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'd take a lot more pride in my scripts if I had to physically see them and stick them in an envelope.
I know, exactly. Spacing. And
It reminds me of that old Peter Cook joke. He was sending something to the head of BBC and he just wrote "cunt London" on it.
Perfect.
How was it on Spitting Image? How was that as a job?
Yeah, that was great, actually. That was really exciting. Because, again, a bit like the Absolute thing.
Another amazing group of people.
Yeah, I know. So many great people in that. And the thing, there's only 3 channels, so this was before Channel 4, so it would get like 16 million viewers or something, And me and Murray would be traveling in the tube to the script meeting on the Monday, and you'd hear people talking about the show, And again, it just felt like so exciting. We've pulled this off.
Yeah.
And also being 20, I kind of thought, I felt like I was like, oh yeah, I'm old enough to be doing this. And now that my kids are 20, you're kind of going, God, that's quite young. You're little kids. But it just, it felt logical to be, I felt like, we did belong there, but it was kind of weird because it was such a big show. And yeah, Rob and Doug, who went on to do Red Dwarf, were doing it. Ian Hislop and Nick Newman were writers.
Wow.
John Lloyd was producing it, the best producer, I guess,
Yeah.
comedy of our generation anyway.
Yeah.
Who did everything really, Blackadder, Not an Adequate News, Spitting Image, QI,
We used it was still on when like Thatcher resigned and all that, wasn't it?
Yes, I think we'd probably left by then.
Aye.
I think we did 4 series. Yeah, because Thatcher was 91 and we'd left to do Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which was we started in 89, 90. Yeah.
Because I guess now, like, it sort of gets looked back on and sort of credited as like, this was the satire that, I guess it didn't even really bring down the Tories.
No,
it was still,
no.
It was 97 before they
Yeah.
do it, but it was like, it had a big cultural impact. And do you
It
think that's
did,
overblown now, or do you think that it was like a thing?
No,
of
it had a culture.
helping-
It definitely had a culture. But what was really interesting was that you couldn't lie about a character. The truth of the character you're lampooning is the truth, and you can't. People would often go, "Oh, you're portraying Thatcher as this really strong." There's that thing wearing the suit, and it was kind of gendered. That she was like the biggest man in the cabinet.
Yeah.
And people would go, "Oh, can you portray her as weak?" And you're going, "Well, no, because that's not how she presents. She's clearly not that." And so you've got to mess with that. And you couldn't, and there was a big kerfuff, can you imagine? Because we were going to do the Queen Mother, again, front page news, the Daily Mail, how dare these, communists. Ridicule the Queen Mother. And then we didn't have her on, but just had her coming on right at the end going, oh, I thought I was going to be in this show. So disappointing. But no matter how you portrayed her, people still loved her. Even if you went with, this is a hard drinking, probably racist, addicted to gambling. People go, no, we love her. And, and whatever. And Norman Tebbit, couldn't buy a leather jacket. Because the best example actually was David Steele. Do you guys remember David Steele?
I don't know.
No, okay. Well, he was a Liberal leader. And the Liberals joined with this social... Here we go.
Yeah, before they were the Lib Dems.
Here's an interesting thing about 1980s politics. David Owen was leader of the SDP and David Steele was leader of the Liberal Party, and they joined to become the Social Democratic and Liberal Party. And David Steele would always appear in David Owen's pocket because David Owen was, he was the kind of more urbane. He was seen as the more powerful guy. And I met David Steele once, and he would go, it's very strange because actually I'm taller than David Owen. You portray me as smaller, and you're kind of go, you're not really getting the entire idea of satire. The point of the joke is you appear, you present as smaller than David Owen. But yeah, it was an absolute must watch, and everybody in Parliament. And on election night, we'd do an election night special. And the news would always start with, all the cabinet ministers watching the show and all that kind of stuff. It was really exciting. Yeah, it's good.
That's great.
So you left before the end of it?
Yes. No, it went on for many series after. We did it 4.
It
went on for like 15 series
sure how
or
long
something.
Because it was still, 90s, I guess when Blair got in, it was still on.
I think it was actually, yeah. Yeah, so they kept, that's the great thing. There's not so many sketch shows now, and that's a real shame because it's such a nursery for writing talent. I mean, that's why Scot Squad kind of works, because it's a disguised sketch show. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But Spitting Image, would have, everyone, Burton and O'Farrell and Parsons and Naylor and Martin, all these double acts. And that was the same with when I look back, that's probably on Wikipedia. I don't know, I haven't looked at my page for a while, but it's that, the writers on my chat show, it was like Jesse Armstrong and Sam Bain.
Yeah. Really?
And, Kevin Cecil and Andy Riley, David Mitchell and Robert Webb, they all that was their first...
Yeah. Where are they
One
now?
of their first shows. Where are they all now? They
losers,
all owe me big time.
You're raging when Brian Cox get the part rather
exactly.
than you.
Come on, Succession. Why is it Cox? Should have been me, Jesse. You know full well. Yeah.
Wasn't it Jesse Armstrong that wrote your fucking Sixth Sense joke? Was it?
Yeah. I can't remember who. It might have been Bob Fraser Steele, or I actually might have written it. Sadly, it might have been suicide. I might have shot myself on my own foot. That one, yeah.
Is it sort of true that you inadvertently kind of launched Graham Norton's talk show?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Well, he stood in for me along with lots of people stood in actually, because Fred Macaulay, Rich Hall did it, Phil Jupitus. So whenever I was away, because I went away and shot a sitcom called The Creatives a couple of times a year, and he would do, but Graham was the one that really connected with the audience, and he took off, and then he got his Channel 4 show because they saw him doing that and thought, well, let's get him. And the big mistake we made was we didn't sign him. We should have signed him to our company. But he went off to set up a new company, which is fair enough, actually. Yeah. And he probably would have done that anyway. But it would have been nice to have still be drawing down our 10%.
Get those checks dropping through the...
Yeah. But I think he's my favorite. I used to prefer Jonathan, but I think Graham's my favorite now as the chat shows. There's just something about the way he corrals it. He's just really good at it.
It's always just such a crazy mix, I guess.
Yeah. And he doesn't, like Jonathan, and when I was doing it as well, it was all, when comedians do it, so we make it too much about ourselves. So Graham seems happy to sit back, but then just come in and drop the great moment. And, he just gets the best out of everyone, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's always funny, like Jonathan Russell's, because obviously in America, like they're all usually stand-ups who end up doing it.
Yeah.
And I guess obviously Graham Norton was for a bit, or at least he was a comedy performer.
Exactly.
Whereas obviously Jonathan Ross, like he's always been, because he's been a presenter, and I guess he's always kind of done kind of comedy stuff, but like he's just got an interesting skill set where like he'd host the comedy awards every year and all that kind of stuff.
And because he is a deeply comic guy.
Aye.
And was always connected with comedy. I was researching comedy shows, and then his company Channel X made Vic and Bob's show that I worked on, the Reeves and Mortimer show, around about the same time as Absolutely.
I don't know you worked on that.
Yeah, first series, so I was script, whatever I was called, editor, associate, president.
How was that writing for Vic and Bob?
That was great. Well, it was. It was just the easiest job in the world, because it was just they'd bring stuff in and you'd go, well, that's hilarious, and that's incredibly hilarious. So just do whatever you want. And so I really did get paid for doing nothing, just sitting in rehearsals and kind of helping them shape it a little bit. But then I had to go off and do another show for the second series, so I couldn't. So I only worked in one series with them. Pete went on to keep working with them, doing music for them. But that was another one where that was so exciting when we'd all go down to Deptford and see them on their live show, and you could just feel this buzz growing. That was like, fuck.
What year would this be?
This would be 1990.
Right. Okay.
89, 90, 91. I think they started after we'd done 2 series, absolutely. And then they came in. And it was like they were on the cover of the NME before they'd had a telly show and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And they just it felt like a band breaking rather than a comedy show breaking.
Yeah.
And it was just wild. They were so good. I think the most original of my generation, certainly.
Yeah, I love
the most influential, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Lots. You can see all the references. You can see where they're getting everything from, but it's also completely original. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, it must have been cool to be in on that.
Yeah, it was. It was great, actually. I know. It's quite interesting talking about my life. Because actually, that's been quite an interesting life, actually. When you've lived it, you don't really think it is. You think, that was an interesting part of my life, Yeah, no, it was great. Again, that buzz around London, Vic and Bob are in town, they were huge. They were like rock stars, actually. They kind of started that almost before Badil and Newman, that kind of.
Yeah, comedy's new rock and roll.
Yeah, comedy's the new rock and roll. They were kind of the front of that,
Yeah. It must be mad as well, I guess so often, when you start out with people or whatever, and you just go, they're going to make it, and then they just do.
Yeah.
It must be just
completely like Eddie Izzard. I thought when I first met Eddie and was seeing him, thinking, surely this guy's going to be massive. He's great.
Is that right?
Yeah, but then Eddie also had a plan to be massive. That was kind of interesting. You'd talk to Eddie and he would have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, even back then, before he was kind of known. And lo and behold, he or she did. So.
Because I watched the Eddie Izzard documentary a couple of years ago, and it was like they were hosting every night in this club. Is that right? And it was just for years and years.
Yeah.
And it was like that just gave them the chops.
Yeah, exactly. And street performing as well.
Aye.
Give you just turning up in Covent Garden, and sword swallowing, corralling a crowd. Yeah,
I know, amazing.
Hard.
So now that you've done 2 shows kind of back to back at the Fringe, do you want to keep this momentum going?
I think so, yeah, I think so.
Do you know what your next show will be about?
No, I don't. That's the thing. It's always
scary,
just,
isn't it?
It's just dependent on what it would be next. And what, I don't know about you, but for me, it's always just what haven't I done? So what can I? So this year's show is a little bit sillier. It's a little bit more, it's not quite stand-up, but there's a few bits that are like that.
Aye.
And I think, well, what would I do next year? And maybe, I haven't ever done a completely true thing. The last 2 shows have kind of been based on truth, but
it's kind of interesting watching us. I guess it might be different because I know you and also I'm a performer, but watching your last show, which I did love, it was so well choreographed and theatrical, like one-man show. I really enjoyed that. But also, it was hard for me to figure out what was true and what wasn't. Is that something you try and
completely.
do?
I want to keep people guessing what's true and what's not. It's the same with this one. This one, if you Googled my age, you'd probably work out, well, some of it can't be true because he's a bit young to have done that. But it's kind of, there are events that are all true, but I've kind of crowbarred in and brought in and telecodes it all down so that, it's true, but it's happening at a different time than it would have been happening at, or a different place. But is yours all true this year? Is that kind of...
Yeah, it's all true. But it's like it's
emotionally true.
Dial up one bit and dial down one bit and fudge 2 things together. It makes me laugh when people are like, "Yeah, is it all true?" And you're like, no. But if it was just true, then everyone could do it, couldn't they? You're just up there just saying stuff that happens.
Exactly.
There's no craft to that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like your premises and your setups are based on truth, and then the punchline's exaggeration in it. But it's funny because I used to I used to do bits about I work in a call centre or something like that, and people sometimes come up to you after and go, "Do you really work in a call centre?" I was like, why would I ever say that?
Of all the things to make up.
Yeah, exactly. As if it's this far-fetched, thing. But
it's usually the boring things you're lying about, I think. You need to just get somewhere in a joke.
Exactly.
But like last year, I was like, "Do you have alopecia?" I'm like, "Why would I make that up?"
Yeah.
Yes. The connective tissue. Yeah. The alopecia, you see the vulnerability, showing your vulnerability. That's what the young ladies like to see in a gentleman.
You couldn't look any less like you do have alopecia.
I know.
The hardest lie to make up.
Person there. The area struggle. It's like, you're the fattest thin man. Yeah.
But you said so you hadn't performed in how many years did you say?
Cool. Well, I hadn't performed live in like 25 years.
So we doing other...
But I'd been performing like in Scot Squad, and I'd done radio shows and I did Scotland in a Day, which was a referendum independence show. I'm getting my breaking up of the unions mixed up. So I'd been doing a little bit before, but I hadn't been doing live.
Because that's what I was going to ask, if like coming back to Scot Squad was like the first time you'd done something for a while, but you've still been doing bits of screening.
Yeah, no, Scot Squad was probably the first time in about 10 years that I'd done any performing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, whenever that started, 2012. And I did remember thinking, oh, why have I given this up? This is a lot of fun. Right in the middle of a take, going, shit, this is fun. And also there's people who'll do my wardrobe and bring me coffee and sandwiches and drive me home at the end of the day. Well, what's not to like about this?
It was a good laugh, wasn't it?
It was a great show.
I always really loved being on set with you.
Yeah, exactly. All the bits that got cut out.
Yeah.
Our burgeoning
Every series, me and Jack would be in like a few different scenes together, and we would know at the time it's not making the telly, but we were just having such a laugh at me.
That was almost the thing I enjoyed most about that show, knowing the bits that I'm doing that are never going to be, but just still doing them. Yeah. Just to annoy Noddy, the director. And it would sit, and my only ambition in that was to get him to throw his script up in the air. And I did it in one. There was a sketch where my character, Mikkelsen, had been brought in to do, you remember the one about coming in to do one line in a student movie, in a zombie apocalypse? And all I had to say, there's a zombie apocalypse is real, or whatever. And then obviously my character starts, I think I should do it like this, Or maybe he's from South America. I mean, maybe he's from the southern states of America. The zombie apocalypse is right. Whilst dabbing, going on and then just pushing it, and then started improvising this bit about maybe he's got a limp. No, I tell you what, he's got 2 limps. And that was the point. So I came in doing 2 limps.
Because he had a bit of the
cut.
He had a bit of the Brent about him, I suppose, like that kind of wanting to be famous, wanting to
completely,
be
yeah.
But I always loved the references like to it was like as if his pals were the Scottish Illuminati, and all the kind of all the big
playing golf with all these high agents, exactly. And I always would throw in things that he would be a fan of some unlikely hip hop star. Again, something completely not true to the character, but I found funny. But Brent's a good thing. I don't know was it Cleese who first said that comedy lies in the gap between who you are and who you think you are. Yeah. And all the great comic characters, the gap is massive. And Brent's gap is massive. Fawlty's, Captain Mannering, whoever. Yeah. And Mikkelsen's the same, that he absolutely believes himself to be the greatest leader of men. And he's just no.
It was always so much fun when we were like pitching lines on set, especially not just in the room, but like because you got you, me, and then like maybe Rab Noddy, whoever's around, and just like 5 or 6 people all just doing an impression of you, riffing lines. It was so much fun.
So good. I know, me sitting there going, do I really sound like that?
And there was obviously that sketch went viral as well as the one about him doing all the apologies. And it gets increasingly.
That is a crazy one because it's, wish we could monetize all that. When so they go, 81 million views going around the world, and the Seattle police force get in touch going, can we have this guy as our boss? And it was weird when it started going viral, and I hadn't told my kids I was doing it, so it was probably about 2 or 3 series in. I don't know why I hadn't come up, but because it wasn't being shown in England, and my daughter got sent, some clips on Facebook going, have you seen this funny Scottish policeman? She had to go, yeah, it's my dad. But no, that's great, because it has a life down in England because of that, and because of iPlayer, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's slightly sad that in the old days, Scottish show would get, repeats on BBC 2, maybe even at 11 o'clock at night, but would get repeated. Whereas now they just trust that an English audience will find it on iPlayer, and some people do, but it's just generally comedy fans. It doesn't go beyond that in a way.
Yeah, there's no real reason for it, is there?
No, yeah, exactly. But it was great fun, and we'll see if there's any more. Yeah, watch this space.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
we can try and put a boot on the throat of the commissioner there.
Just do a live show, double act.
I know, that's another thing.
No one could tell us not to.
Yeah, it's like absolutely we could never get us all together to do a live show, but that would have been fun to do it once.
Yeah, there was talk of it, wasn't it? But it never happened.
Yeah, it never happened. I think I just couldn't get everyone to agree. Too many people. Some people want whatever, or just availability, or maybe they weren't paying us enough money. Maybe that was it.
Stuart demanding too big a fee.
I couldn't even make the meal.
Guys in the Hydro, 27 nights.
What are you working on at the minute that you can talk about, Jack? Because I know you've always got scripts on the go and stuff.
Yes, well, I'm working on an adaptation of Nothing But, actually.
Oh, right. Which was your last Fringe show? Which is
my last Fringe show. So a couple of TV indies came in for that, and then one said, let's try and do it as a one-off, and one said, well, let's try and expand it to a 6-parter, and see if we could then have a series beyond that. So I'm in the middle of doing that, and obviously just had the first awkward conversation where they go, well, actually, we're thinking of pitching this to BBC Drama, but down in London, and just wondering if somebody else could play you. Yeah,
surely there's someone that'd be better at playing you than you. Surely.
Exactly. And them thinking, oh God, he'll be really upset with that.
If Brian Cox gets that, no, by the way, that's shocking.
Exactly. Cox.
Graham Norton,
and I'm going, Norton again. The character's now gay. He's Irish. But of course, I'm completely fine with that because I see it as a writing project slightly more, and I really just would like to. I would like to Fleabag it, just blow it up into a bigger thing. So we'll see if that happens, and then we're looking at the Chief. Can I say that? I don't know if I can say that. Yeah,
doubt it.
But
I don't know.
We probably can't say that.
Yeah, well, I was in that room, so I want to cut to that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's still working on that.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be more Chiefs, and I think that's maybe it. Yeah, at this moment,
it's enough.
It's enough. It's a couple of things. And am I doing? No, I think I am doing something else, but I can't remember what it is.
Are you looking forward to being done with the Fringe and getting a rest?
Yeah, a little, yeah. You know what it's like by the last week, you're getting a little, and the audiences too. There's always a kind of okay, we've seen a lot of stuff now.
There's a lot of big nights ahead though as well. All these parties and
I know. I don't know. Closing down, and it's that last Sunday. It's always a little bit of a come down.
Yeah.
It's like last.
Are you doing the last Sunday?
Yeah. I don't do the Monday though.
No, I'm not doing the Monday. Who does the Monday?
Some people do the Monday. No, we don't. I don't do
the Monday. Why would you do the Monday?
He started on like the 31st of July. Though he's been.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I did like 5 previews.
5 previews. And they all went well. So when did you start working on yours? And you were proper work in progress in Glasgow?
First work in progress would be March. I always do that at the Glasgow Comedy Festival. So I think I did like 9 previews between March and the end of July.
Right, okay.
Well, I was I filmed my last show. I'd done the King's Theatre in March for the festival. Okay. And so I filmed that. Yeah. So I didn't have a lot of time. So I really only started working on this in May. Yeah. So I just worked my ass off and just I wrote like fuck for a couple of weeks and then just previewed it as much as I can. Right. So I was really relieved to even get to the Fringe and have it in a point where it was working, and no, I'm really happy we have managed to do it. Well, and it's the first time I've really turned around stuff, because I done a show before COVID and I done a show after, but it was all kind of stand up and there's a wee bit of crossover. So this is the first time I've really had to turn around that new hour, and particularly in that short period of time.
Yes.
So I'm now looking forward next year having a full 12 months to do that, and then maybe take on tour or something afterwards,
really work it.
But no, it's been great.
It's
been great fun.
And are you going down to London, and are you doing English gigs, or
I'm hoping to. I was in London right before the Fringe, and I was doing previews there. So I'm hoping to take the full show back. Where did you play down there? Top Secret.
Yeah. It's called the Bill Murray. It's really great.
Yeah.
It's funny you mention that, Jack, because we're actually doing the podcast live in London on the 9th of September for the London Podcast Festival.
Ah, nice.
So you're there?
I'm there. Just send me a thing.
I'm assuming, I don't know how long we've got, sorry, but I'm assuming on your show, is because you're not working up in clubs so much, is a lot of it written at the desk, and it's like you're writing it like a script?
Yeah. I'm writing it like a script, but I kind of improvise it, sort of. So I kind of get on my feet and just start performing
Talk it out,
and then sometimes record what I'm doing, and then type it out. But some of it's just actually written. I write the construct, the frame of it, like nothing but it's jumping around time scale, just thinking, well, what information do you hold back here? What do you put there? And then I'll improvise what's within those scenes.
You've got an amazing skill set, because obviously doing a lot of writing, performing, obviously just overseeing stuff and all that. Like, what was your actual background? Was it in acting, or was it like, what did you study or anything?
Yeah, no, I fell into it. I was studying law, actually.
Really?
And then I dropped out after 2 years. I mean, when I say studying law, I lived in Aberdeen for 2 years and went to one lecture, and then somehow got through the first year. I'm not entirely sure how I did that, but then I got offered the job writing. I think the very first writing job was for Saturday Stay Back, which was a Chris Tarrant thing. Yeah, he did a kids show on a Saturday morning, which then became an adult show, and me and Murray wrote for that.
Aye.
So when they offered us that, I thought, Murray was already a lawyer, I was a student, and then we thought, fuck it, shall we go for it? Shall we try and make this our career? And it was safety in numbers, because there was 2 of us. So he stopped his job and I dropped out, and it was fine. But yeah, law. But it was quite a lot of lawyers ended up in comedy, I think, back in the day.
Oh, really?
But I was so glad I didn't do law.
Why do you think that is? There's a lot of lawyers and doctors in comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and particularly from that
people
from
that
that
could be doing
generation.
better things.
Yeah, exactly. People who could. Yeah. My sister continued to be a lawyer, and when I walk into her massive house, I do question my my decision. Yeah, I don't know. It's an analytical mind, I think. Law. Yeah. I don't know why it is.
Yeah.
Or it's just a bunch of middle class people back then. They were all Oxbridge lot. Were all kind of lawyers. But I remember sitting doing an exam or reading up on a case. And it was about the common ownership of tenement drain pipes and who was responsible for the upkeep of which bit of the drain pipe. And I remember sitting there going, I'm not sure I can do this for the next 45 years. It's like, fuck no. I bailed.
Interesting you say about the Oxbridge folk and all that. Like, see, when you moved to London and you were doing that, and then the circles with all those people, like, did you ever feel out of place because you were Scottish, or did nobody really care?
No, nobody really cared, actually. I didn't. It was a time when it had to become a real secret had you been there. So the generation, Morwenna, who was in Absolutely with us, she was in the Footlights. And there was a whole Nick Hancock and Robert Harley and people. And it was kind of like you had to keep that secret at all costs.
Because it's the alternative comedy thing?
Yeah, because that had all come out. So until during the 70s, it was all that. Everybody wanted to be in the Footlights. Everybody wanted to be in the Oxford Review. Then in the 80s, everybody who was in that, either of those groups, had to try and get out their CVs, get it off there. Not that there was any Wikipedia, but just hide from it and pretend, But that was always the way. I mean, all the punk bands were like that. It's like Joe Strummer, which you're a diplomat's son, or Shane McGowan going to Westminster public school or whatever. It was all, you had to pretend you were from the street and you weren't.
Our mates do this music podcast, Enjoy an Album, and they done a Pogues episode recently. I could not believe that he's English.
Yeah. I know.
They've got a feature called Secret Posho.
Yeah, exactly. Secret Posho. It's the perfect podcast. Yeah. Whereas I present as posh, but I'm actually, from the wrong side of the tracks. I've done it the other way. Yeah, Shane McGowan was on my chat show. And that was absolutely insane, just getting him, his manager, he'd be just like that. It's just head nodding, and then his manager just give him a spoon of Coke, and he'd just get up and be able to answer a couple of seconds, and then fall asleep again. And he was absolutely wild boy. But every now and again, it's like a little pilot light, in a boiler was just still, that genius was still flickering.
Yeah.
And he'd say something that was just like so poetic and incredible, He was such a genius. Still is, I guess, but
amazing.
He's a surprising man to still be kicking around, isn't he? You would have thought Shane would have maybe. Yeah. Him and Keith Richards. It's like, I know. How did you do that?
Still clinging on.
Yeah, no, good stuff.
And to go back to Bowie, I don't know how much you want to talk about it, because obviously it's in your show and all that, but what was it like when you interviewed Bowie? Was that the first time you'd ever met him?
Yeah, it's the first time I met him, and I did love him as a teenager, and that's what the show's slightly about, that towards the end, about how the teenage fan inside you never dies, it's only dormant. You can meet, like I interviewed George Clooney, and it was just like, oh, that's George Clooney sitting there, and he's very handsome, and it's nice to meet him, but I'm not going, fuck, it's George Clooney. Whereas with Bowie, there's always somebody inside you going, fucking hell, it's that guy I loved when I was 13. He's a real. And when I look back at the interview, I spend a lot of time inadvertently touching him, because it's almost like I can't believe he's there. It's like, Bowie's good, what are you doing? But it was great. The one thing really great, I woke up from a little snooze in the afternoon, my pre-show snooze, and I opened the door and he was just standing there, and I went, oh, hi, David, hi, how you doing? I'm Jack, I'm going to be interviewing you tonight. And he went, I know you are, Jack, I'm a big fan. And, I'm sure he wasn't, but how nice of him to say that. And I was going, did anybody record that? Have you got? But then it turns out, because David Baddiel came to my Bowie show the other night, and he got to know his son, Duncan Jones, and it turns out that he was a Baddiel and Newman fan, or a Mary Whitehouse Experience fan, and would get sent VHSs of British comedy shows, because he liked to keep up with British comedy. So David actually thinks he probably was an Absolutely fan.
Wow.
So he had watched it. And that's so weird when you meet people like I met Joe Strummer, back to him, who was a big Absolutely fan. And I was going, we must talk about The Clash. And he's going, he's got a Stony Bridge, man. This is just so insane,
Yeah.
Why would you want? That's a great thing about fame and relativity of fame, that Sting's kids were big Absolutely fans when they were like 12 and 14. And Frances Domerty's then wife said, can I bring the kids down? And they came and we said, yeah, bring them in for the rehearsal, and then they can watch the show. And they were so excited. you know, to meet us. They're almost like shaking with excitement to me. And we're kind of going, but your dad stings. You know, you're probably having dinner with Bono every other night. You know? But it doesn't matter. It's who you're interested in. You know, it's who's famous for you. That's just exciting. You know.
I heard someone say once as well, it's like you only really care about meeting famous people that were famous before you.
Yes.
What kind of famous? So it's
exactly. When you come up with the same people, it's like my kids go, my God, you've met Eddie Izzard. And you kind of go, but when Eddie Izzard wasn't Eddie Izzard, you know? Yeah. He was, you know. And one day I'll be singing about you too, obviously. You know?
But that's it. I think me and
You're playing those stadiums. We're playing the Hydro.
And in 20 years, we're going to be doing a show about how we interviewed you.
Yeah, if you've only been listening, I've been touching Jack repeatedly throughout this.
Do my memorial.
I think that's probably what covers it. And before you go, is there anything else you'd like to plug or anything, Jack? Other than
I'm good. Yeah, that's it, really. Yeah.
Thanks very much for coming on, Jack. It's always nice to see you.
At all.
I'm looking forward to seeing the show tomorrow night.
And I'm looking forward to seeing yours tonight.
Much obliged.
Perfect.
Before we go, as ever, please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can follow us at Some Laugh Pod on Instagram, TikTok and Twitter, and send in emails if you've got a question for us to our email address, which is somelaughpod@gmail.com. But thanks a lot for tuning in, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Cheers, man.
That
was great.